Good evening and welcome to the City of Lincoln's regular meeting of the City Council. This meeting will be televised and available on cable channel 18, as well as available via Zoom. Tonight's invocation will be given by Pastor Bill Wraith from Christian Life Church. Once the invocation has concluded, Mayor Andreatta will call the meeting to order.
To give this invocation. It's always an honor to be able to be a part of this. I love the city and the people of it. So if you would bow your heads and close your eyes. Lord God, I just want to say thank you for the people in this room, for those that are leading our city through the city council, the city staff, the first responders that are here, Lord God, and that represent the first responders and other city staff and other people who help run this great city. I pray that you would just bless them in every aspect of their life. You'd protect those that are protecting us. You would fill and encourage those who are trying to encourage our city. I pray you give wisdom to our city council today. I pray that whatever is before them, they would not make decisions in their own information and in their own wisdom, but that you would guide and direct them. And I just thank you again for these wonderful people, their willingness to serve, and I just pray blessings upon their lives in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Lincoln 2025 regular meeting, City Council, Lincoln Development Successor Agency. Instead of 30.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Reedy,
Here.
Councilmember Pearl,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown, absent. Councilmember Eklund. Here. Mayor Andreatta.
And we have some student guests, and Kylie is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Willing to do that. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, we are going to take a moment to hold a moment of silence honoring the life of the City of Marysville police officer, Osmar Rodarte. His service was, talked about him last time, or we had an event, we talked about him. I would like for the council and all in the room to silence. It's a huge loss for our region, for the City of Marysville. They're a small unit and across a lot of places. Join me in a moment of silence. I think we're having problems with the microphone. Reports that voice is garbled and they're not. All right. Oh, that's better. Woo, wow. Woo. Now. Woo. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Item number 9, report from closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. There is no reportable action this evening.
Okay, great. Thanks. Item number 10, agenda modification. Does anybody on the council wish to modify the agenda? Any staff? No? Okay, great. Right. Item 11, presentations. 11A, introduction to the Lincoln Public Library student interns. Catherine.
All right. I have a green light, so I believe I'm on.
You
Yes,
are. Great, thanks.
fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mayor Andreatta, all of our council members, staff, the public. My name is Catherine Hunt. I am your Director of Library Services, and I am very excited today on National Library Workers Day to be introducing to all of you 5 of our newest employees at the library and share with you a very brief update. I promise you all know I can talk, but this will be a brief update on the grant and the process that allowed us to bring on this cohort of 5 high school student interns who are the first in the library's history of having high school interns. So we're very, very excited about this opportunity to support youth in our community in career transitions and building career skills. So before I bring them up here, just a little bit of how we got here. We are offering 5 paid internships through a Teen Succeed grant. This is a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services administered by the California State Library. We applied for this grant and successfully received roughly $54,000 in grant funds, not only to provide stipends for paid internships, which makes these internships more accessible and attractive to youth throughout our community, but also to help support staff time in supporting these interns, as well as funds for materials and resources for programs and events designed by our interns, as well as collection development. So the means to make sure that the very thoughtful work that these young people are doing for our community can actually come to fruition. So with that, we spent last fall working with community groups, working with our educational community, our business community to identify what would be very meaningful in an internship for young people, what would really help set them up for success and help design what our interns are doing this spring, as well as working very closely with our human resources department to build the job scope as well as, or the job description, as well as put on what I thought was a very successful recruitment. And I'm very, very grateful to Veronica's entire department who contributed incredible time, thoughtfulness, and care for us to be able to do a recruitment that really helped support our young people, many of whom were going through a formal job recruitment process for the first time in applying. So we received 78 applications for 5 positions from youth throughout our city, downtown, 12 Bridges, Lincoln Crossing, Foskett Ranch, the entire city and surrounding area. It took a lot of work on my team to whittle that down to our top 19 who we interviewed. And I have to say that all of those individuals absolutely rose to the occasion, put their best foot forward in their enthusiasm and their professionalism. And it was not easy to come down to our top 5 choices to make offers to. But I have to say that it is a phenomenal group of young people that I have the privilege of working with through this spring. And so with that, I'm very excited to introduce to you all our teen interns who will come up. We have Grayson Zimney, Adeline Overa, Leilani Bogar. Charvi, I didn't get a chance to rehear your last name before this, so I'm going to apologize if I mispronounce this, but Charvi Gangavarapu, as well as Kylie Emirante. So these are our teen interns. What they have done so far, they've only been with us since February, and they have already learned the foundations of customer service, library circulation, library cataloging, and collection development. They are actively working our front desk, helping the public with the full range of questions that come forward to that. They have already put together a library program, which I always get the total name wrong, Beast Battle Bracket? Fantastic. Which was a March Madness inspired bracket voting of the community for favorite animals, of which pandas won.
Oh, wow.
So current reigning champions for this year. And they have supported our existing programs, including our family story time, our read to a dog, and our upcoming fairy tale day. And through the next few months, till the end of June, while we have them, they are already actively reaching out to publishers to help coordinate an author visit. They're going to continue to develop programs. They're researching materials to add to enhance our collection, and will continue to come into the library and demonstrate those transferable soft skills that they're already using every time they come in, are already showing incredible aptitude for things like communication, accountability, and the pursuit of excellence. It has been an absolute delight the last few weeks working with this group. They have really come together as a team and are working together phenomenally, and they each bring their own strengths. It has been absolutely delightful seeing those. Things like Kylie has an absolutely unrepressible optimism that she brings in and welcomes everyone into the library. Both Grayson and Leilani are incredibly insightful thinkers who are able to synthesize in hours worth of brainstorming and come up with incredibly meaningful questions on how to improve what we're doing going forward. And Charvi and Adeline have such poise in front of the unknown. Any task we give them or question from the public, they just dive in to solve that. So it is an incredible privilege working with these young people. The future is in very, very good hands. And I wanted to make sure that you all as council were aware of how, as you already are, but have this window of how fantastic the youth in our community are. And we're happy to answer any questions. And we would also love to get a photo of our interns with you all if you would entertain
Oh,
that.
we would love that. Yes, thanks. Well, okay, first of all, congratulations. That 78 applications is a lot. And so to be chosen as one of the 5, that's very impressive. So congratulations. Thank you for all you're doing. I did have one question. Was the interview nerve-wracking? Were you nervous or? Yeah, a little scary? I know Catherine's really scary, huh? Doesn't it? Good. Well, we're thankful for you. That's amazing.
You know, an internship is a two-way street. We get so much out of it, but you get probably more out of it over here. You're around great role models. You're learning the value of work, interaction with the community, giving back. So thank you for stepping up. I don't think we took much of a chance, frankly.
Yeah,
I don't think so either.
Smaller
No
enough.
chances
Great,
taken.
yes.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Catherine, every time I think that you can't do better, your library can improve, you surprise us. So thank you. Wonderful. Okay, moving on, item 11B, presentation of the real-time information camera pilot program update. Jennifer.
Right. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm here to give you an update on the real-time information camera pilot project that we launched back in August of '24. I know we have 3 new council members, so I'm gonna kind of start from the beginning to give you an update. So through this agenda, we'll talk about the background, what the use cases we had for the program was for, where we chose to have our pilot program, which is what intersection, the key findings that we found during the pilot, and what the timeline was, what we learned, any future potential intersections we might have, and direction from you on how you'd like us to proceed. So Chief Alves and I worked together to come up with this idea of a real-time information camera system that's used in many cities regionally. I think City of Elk Grove, probably most famous for their Arctic program. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go see their Arctic. It's pretty cool. But what this is cameras at a major intersection at Ferrari and Joyner. We worked with a vendor that we use, and we had a 30-day evaluation period with no obligation. It was going to be the first use of cameras for intersections in the city, and we put together a 96-hour video retention policy. We weren't going to be saving this data for months. It was really, if there was a collision, if there was an accident, if there was an incident, that was the only reason that we were going to be accessing this data. The use cases for this data was for emergency response. If there was a crash in this intersection, Dispatch would be able to see the intersection, see what was needed. If there was more than one ambulance needed, they can order more than one ambulance before the police officer arrives to report what the issue is. If we find, if we're getting reports of a signal not working, they can do remote signal review. Streets would be able to without having to go on site. Any intersection hazards, something in the middle of the intersection, they know, they can see what it is and to get the right crew out there to clean it up. Just community safety for review, documentation of accidents. There's an accident and insurance would asks for the video to see who was at fault. It helps the Lincoln, community to be able to show that they were not at fault, it was somebody else. And then accurate collision depiction. So why did the accident happen? Is it because of bad timing on the light? Is it because of just a bad driver? That would help with those cases. We were not using it for red light ticketing. We're not using it for speed enforcement and non-active incident tracking. So we're not just sitting there watching the cars go through the intersection. The pilot location was Ferrari Ranch and Joyner Parkway. We picked this intersection because there was a high number of collisions in this intersection, and we wanted to try and figure out what the reasoning was. It's also near some major intersection. It's near some major retail. Home Depot, Target, TJ Maxx, all those are near here. And so and it's closer to the freeway. So if there was theft, this would be how people would leave. And then high traffic count. And I think this video is just mesmerizing. This is a drone video. We just used all of the fun technology to make this presentation. And also it's pretty. It's a pretty intersection, so it's fun to look at.
Did you add color to that, or is that?
That's
Oh, that's so beautiful.
spring in Lincoln.
Yeah.
So during the pilot, there was a lot of issues that we found and ironed out. The camera this camera right here is what we started with. This is the camera that Roseville uses at every single one of their intersections. And it has 4 cameras within this top part, and then this bottom part, this UFO, is a PTZ, so you can pan, tilt, zoom in on situations. So essentially, it's 5 cameras in one. And what we found when we were testing this was we don't have fiber to all of our street lights or traffic lights, and Roseville does. We were using a cell modem for upload of these cameras, and this is a newer version of this camera because in the past, you had, I'm going to get a little bit technical, but I'm trying to explain what the problem was. You had IP addresses, which is like would be like its own lane for each camera. But it's also opens up a security risk. If you put this on your network, there's like 5 more ways for people to get in. So what they did was they made one IP for the top set of cameras, one IP for the second set of cameras. So if you see my little thing here, you're trying to fit all this traffic through one hole. If you're running on fiber, you have a lot more bandwidth to be able to do that with than if you're trying to upload with a cell modem. And so you get a traffic jam. And what happens is the video becomes choppy. And so to fix that, we did troubleshooting with the vendor, with the product vendor. This went from the cell modem vendor. We took it all the way up top to development because the version of the camera that we were using was new. And they hadn't seen this issue before with this new camera hardware and this new Cradlepoint hardware, cell modem. And so once we figured out what the problem was, we changed our path and we went with 2 bullet cameras and one PTZ. And each one of these has their own, their own IP address. So then what you have is everyone has their own lane. You have no issues. You have smooth video and everything's great. What's nice about that is now other cities are using the information that we found out and making changes to their program. This version was working in Citrus Heights, or no, Modesto. This was working in Modesto, but they put a computer at every intersection. And A, that's expensive, and B, it's a security risk, and C, I'm just not gonna do that. So that wasn't an option for me. So the other thing that we found during review was that we don't need this PTZ. We don't use it, we don't need it. The two bullet cams capture the entire intersection. It gets us the information that we're looking for. And so we're able to cut the cost of what the intersection would cost by removing the PTZ. This over here is this here is the shark fin. This is the Cradle Point, the cell modem. And this is the traffic cabinet. So all the cameras route back to here and then they get uploaded to the cloud via that, we call it a shark fin. Sorry if I'm trying to stay. I know, I'm trying, I'm sorry. I need to explain it, but
It's okay, Jen, we can handle it. Like, we're good.
they're making fun of me over
We're
here.
Yeah, we're tracking just fine with you. Just keep going.
Okay. So the other thing that we found is it works, right? So we had a collision at this intersection, and I just want everyone to notice this is 7:30 at night. And the view that you have, it almost looks like it's dusk. So I'm going to play, oops, I'm gonna play this video. So you can see here, this person is turning left. They have their blinker on and a green light, and then you have a guy run the red light right into them. So, but this video shows that you ran the red light, the other person had the right of way, and there's no confusion. And everyone was okay, I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
I was going to ask you if everyone was
Yes.
okay. Yeah.
So to give you an idea of the timeline and how much time and effort was put into this by staff, by the vendors, both product and the installer, I wanted to put this together. We presented this to council in August. We installed the hardware in September. The streets team, awesome. We use the bucket truck for them. They shut down the lane. They help us with this every time we needed to go up and fix something. They were there in support, helping us make this work. September through December, we did the troubleshooting. There was a lot. It was a lot of back and forth. It was a lot of try this, do this. In January, we came up with that new configuration. Again, went through the install again and addressed those hardware issues. In March, after, a month or two after we got all the lighting correct, the color correct, everything looked good. Staff felt confident in what the results were. They could review the data, pull the data. On this, when we had Verizon went down. So Verizon did an upgrade from 4G to 5G. Then they did an upgrade from 5G to 5G ultra wide. I don't know if you guys have noticed anything on your phones, but they've changed so you have more broadband through Verizon. Well, when they did that, they were down, it was down for 10 days. And we didn't know because we don't have, we made this off our network because we wanted it to be completely isolated and separate because we weren't going to be setting it up, all the security and everything. It was a pilot, we were testing it. And so we didn't know that it was offline. Well, all that data is supposed to go up to the cloud, right? Well, then when this accident happened, we didn't have it in the cloud. What we had to do was go and pull it off the onboard SD card, which holds a terabyte of data. And so we were able to pull the accident from the card. So you have your backup. That's always have your second. And then here in April, giving you the update. What we learned, the pilots, they're worth the effort. I think that it gave us a lot of information that we would have, if we had just purchased it, we would have been struggling with and frustrated with, and, it was just a very different experience. Video timestamps, you'll notice that video didn't have any timestamps. So we have added video timestamps to all of our videos. Backup to the backup, I talked about that. You always have that with you. I think the success of this pilot was attributed to City of Lincoln staff, both my IT staff, public works staff, public safety staff. They took a big hand in review and all of this as well. And then the product that we have chosen and working with the product technical team was really good. The vendor was really good. And I've confirmed that fiber is the future. If this is something that you would like to proceed with, I worked with PD to create a prioritized list of intersections on where they would like to see these rolled out to. Their top three are Ferrari Ranch Road and Lincoln Boulevard, 12 Bridges Drive and East Rainer Parkway, and Sterling Parkway and East Rainer Parkway. For the cost estimate for each one of these is between 10 and 20K, depending on the size of the intersection. The Ferrari Ranch and Joyner is the larger intersection. That would be a 20K intersection. Smaller one might be 7th and Lincoln Boulevard, smaller intersection, not as many lanes. You don't have those turn pockets, those kinds of things that you have to have 4 bullet cameras instead of 2 bullet cameras. That's really where the difference is. And just a little asterisk, this is before the 104% tariff that it was announced today from China. So not sure what that price is going to be.
It'll all shake out in the end, don't worry.
And then the
Right.
annual costs are for that shark fin, which would be between $730 and $1,500, depending on if we need 1 or 2 per intersection. And the last question we have is, how would you like us to proceed? And if you have any questions, of course.
Okay, I have 2 questions first. At the very beginning of your presentation, you said you should go to Elk Grove and look at, what did you call the,
Called the Arctic.
Arctic or Arctic?
Arctic, RTIC.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if I heard you right. What was that?
I still said Arctic in my
Yeah.
notes.
Okay, thank you. And then to your point about fiber is the future, were we looking at a fiber plan?
Yeah, so Jen's actually leading that. So we just talked about this yesterday. She's about 3 months out roughly from that being complete. And then we're already looking at, there's a federal program called BEAD, right? I don't know what the acronym is, but basically they fund fiber in certain areas. And so Jen has already kind of pre-identified a couple of areas in the downtown area that numbered and lettered streets, the gridded area, that probably will qualify for this BEAD funding. And that feds cover
75%.
So match is 25%. So basically you get 75 cents on the dollar to pull fiber into these existing areas, which is the most expensive thing to do. But remember, if you go way back to why we did this in the first place, was the original intent was to try to provide a alternative and lower cost and hopefully better service internet option for people primarily in the downtown, and then you expand it out to other areas that don't have it. So side benefit, of course, is that with that project, you can presumably pull fiber into some of our poles, which makes, the transmission of data a little easier for us. Did I do that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Questions from the council?
If we move forward with it and waiting for fiber to come through, are we duplicating? Are we doubling up on cost, or should we wait, or what do you think?
Well, you can still move forward and just use a shark fin, a cell modem. It just has an annual cost of between $730 and $1,500. The fiber, even once we have a plan, I think it's gonna be a while before we can identify projects and get them completed. But I mean, it wouldn't be like in the next, 5 years kind of a thing. I don't think that you'd be able to do in these already existing intersections that were identified by PD, just because the cost to get in there is a lot higher than like, say, greenfield development with new intersections or maybe smaller areas. The way the fiber plan's gonna work is we've identified facilities that are like our top priority, which would be all of the city-owned facilities, right? Because the first thing we want to do is get rid of our internet bills. So you would be having a ring of fiber that would connect your city facilities, and then in that, you would be picking up these other areas, like in downtown and in the older parts of town. So that would be within your ring. I'll do a presentation on the fiber plan, and we'll get much more into it, but I just think that waiting for the fiber to be pulled is gonna be a while.
So we're gonna have to use the shark for 5 years, or it's some period of time. Okay. The other question that I had, well, you said Roseville has a lot of these, order of magnitude, how many?
Every intersection.
Every intersection.
And when you drive through now, you'll notice them. We have 44 intersections currently, and I think about 5 of them are Caltrans owned. So we're in like about the 40 range, and we've identified 9. On this map, there is a camera that was put in by a developer when the roundabout was put in, that's in front of Fire Station 35. That camera's already there. All we would be doing here is activating that camera, if you wanted us to do that.
No questions.
Okay, all right, let's see if there's any public comment on this. Yeah.
So question number 1 is, are we going to charge the insurance when there's an accident and they want to see who's at fault?
So insurance companies are charged a fee just according to our fee schedule for whenever they request information from us and when reports are released and any information like this. So there is a charge that recoups.
For the recording?
Yeah, for any of the data that we release to the insurance companies, they write a check to the city for our time. So it's how all the salary schedules work. So it's just basically it zeroes everything out.
Okay, over 15 years ago, I had an accident there and I didn't have cameras. But the public who saw the accident was able to give a report that it wasn't my fault. The gentleman ran a red light. So I don't believe we really need them right now. We need other things in this town before we go into doing the cameras, because it's a lot of money. I know we need to progress, and I know we need to get to Roseville standards, but we are not even close to Roseville standards in stores and everything that Roseville has before we start putting cameras in every corner. Thank you.
Well, just to your point, Darla, I don't think any of us really want to be like Roseville, and I don't think the plan is to do every intersection, but I hear you. Yeah. No, no, I appreciate it.
When you up the water rates, it's
Yes.
because Roseville has that, like that too, and we wanted to be like Roseville. So that's
No,
why I'm
I
saying.
don't. Okay. Yeah,
I would just like to add to Mayor and Council that there's another added benefit to these cameras, and there are oftentimes in these collisions where someone actually strikes a piece of city infrastructure, like the street light or a utility box or something like that, and being able to have actual evidence to be able to pursue their insurance to reimburse the city when we have to make major repairs like that can also be a benefit.
Yes, and I believe we can also recover all the costs associated with that. So it's everything. It's the hardware, there's a proportionate amount, so.
Are there any other comments, Mr. Chapman?
Byron Chapman, 12 Bridges area. Madam Mayor, council members, and city staff. Nowadays, it seems like the bad guys are working just as hard when we come up with anything new to figure out how to disassemble it. How vulnerable is this piece of equipment? I mean, either what houses it or how much punishment can it take before it turns into a piece of junk? I'm thinking that be almost crazy to do that, because if the camera's on and you're doing something with it, but then again, creative minds to try to shut something down. So just curious about what is the technique. And the other question was just as the warranty on the equipment, or however that falls into play. Thank you.
Yeah, those are great questions. The cameras themselves are pretty high up on the pole. I think it would have to be shot with something to reach it. The shark fin is on the traffic cabinet, and it's bolted in from the bottom part, and then it's a hard plastic on the outside. It's made to be outside. We have them on tops of all of our police cars and garbage trucks. So that would also be probably pretty hard to, you'd have to take a baseball bat to it or something. You're not gonna pull it off the cabinet or anything. And then all the cameras come with a 5-year warranty for maintenance and support and repair.
And Mayor, if I could just add two things. One of the other benefits of the camera system, and we may or may not have, we're in budget right now, so we may or may not have resources to employ this right now, but the point of the exercise was to see what kind of value we got out of it. One is that you notice in that accident, what was happening was the person that ran the red light was coming down the Joyner Bridge. And so it's sort of interesting because that kind of real-time information gives the engineering team some interesting views into what possibly causes a higher likelihood of accidents in a particularly problematic intersection. Which is just, you can get some of that stuff from the reports that come out of the police department, but it's very different when you can kind of see it live. So there's some usefulness to that. And then separately, the military science, there's this concept that the police departments across the nation have sort of adopted. It's called force multiplying, which essentially means that you use equipment and or technology to increase the ability of your force to do the thing that they're trying to do. So these little things give the police department and their dispatch eyes where they don't have them, and where it may not be useful 99 out of 100 days, but on the 100th day when you really need it, it provides something that you otherwise couldn't do unless you just had that chief had one of his guys sitting at an intersection all day long. So when we look at what resources we have to potentially propose a more permanent program, we'll probably bring to you that total picture of what does it cost and what is the real value we think we're going to get out of it, because it is a big investment. And we already do have a pretty robust license plate reader system. So when you saw that map, we were kind of careful about just intersections where we think we really need them. I don't know this to be true, but I think chiefs told me that Roseville has them virtually everywhere in the entire community. I don't know that that's necessary in Lincoln, but perhaps a small investment for some areas that are worrisome.
Okay. Are there any comments on Zoom?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll go ahead and unmute Jason Daggett. Please make your public comment.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to echo first the same thing Darla said. I think based on the investment, even pre-tariff amounts, assuming they stay the same, I don't, I don't see the value in that. And to kind of pivot off of what some other folks have said, the bit about, the city property being damaged. And that's a great story to tell. And maybe that happens a lot, but I really highly doubt there's a bunch of accidents where city property is damaged and they're not able to determine fault based off of how they are doing the accident investigations now. And then to Sean's point, I don't think 99, one time out of 100 is a good justification for spending $20,000 per intersection and up to $1,500 a year per access point for God knows how many years until this fiber network thing comes through, if it does. To Darla's point, there are other things in the city that are necessary, much more necessary, as I've mentioned to this council before, than what we're asking to spend money on right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. Anybody else hope? Nope. Okay. All right. We'll bring it back to the council. So we're just, we're not, there's no resolution and we're not deciding, right? We just like, okay, so my thought is, let's, since we're not actually purchasing them right now, let's find out what the total cost would be, what we're looking at. And you can come back and give us a presentation. Does that? Yeah? Yeah? Okay.
I think it'd be helpful for me to, I agree with our Mayor Andrietta, to see what that would be, but then also what that would be in like a phase. So maybe not all of them, but like the next two. What would that cost? Because I do see the value in this, and I think that there could be a balance between doing some severe versus trying to be like Roseville, which I agree, I don't think we're trying to be like Roseville, but something that our city manager, Sean and I were talking about with this that I didn't realize is, some of the other data that we're pulling, like the timing and not knowing whether or not that's causing an accident is really important information. I'm thinking if that's the best way for us to figure out if it's something that simple that we can fix, we could be saving somebody's life, and that could be somebody that we know. And I know you can chase that, down rabbit holes in every direction for risk versus reward. But to me, it seems like, yeah, it's expensive, especially if it were a large scale, but it could be really worth it to do in certain locations.
But I think that's a good idea to look at the whole, what would it look like all at once? What would it look like in phases? What do we think are the most vital intersections right now? So and then come back whenever you're ready to. But thank you for doing the pilot. Thank you for all of that troubleshooting and, going back and doing all. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I don't like to purchase things.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah,
was a
no,
good
thank you.
thing.
Good. Right. Thank you.
Work.
Appreciate that. Yes, very much. All right. Item number 12, public comment on non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. I don't have any cards. No. Okay. But is there anybody in the chamber that would like to make a comment on something not on the agenda? Anybody on Zoom?
To Madam Mayor, I have Fran Neves. Fran, you've
Hi,
been
Fran.
unmuted. Please make your
Hi,
public comment.
everybody. That was a great presentation. The fact that those cameras are already there, will you keep those cameras already there? I mean, you're not going to take them down or anything, are you?
I don't know. The one that's already there?
Yeah, the ones that are already up there, they wouldn't be taking them down, would they?
Well, it was a pilot. We have to purchase if we want to keep it there.
Oh, I see. Well, I hope they get some grants or something. But I was calling in because I saw that at the library, the cardboard the place for the cardboard bins seems to be all cemented and everything. It seems like it's ready to go except for landscaping. And I had a class at the library yesterday at 1 o'clock. I went at 12:20 and there were only 3 places left in the parking lot. You know, most of the people ended up parking on the street. So I hope that you open up that cardboard box bin, that new area soon, you know. And I'd like to be there when you do it too. So that's why I was calling it, about the cardboard box recycling at the library, you know, where they're going to move it. I see you're all
Thanks,
looking
Fran. So when are we moving it? When are we
you're all
done?
looking at Sean,
Oh,
right?
No, yeah, thank you, Fran.
Okay, Vin, can you, or somebody, maybe probably Vin, we're probably not at the stage where we're accepting completion of that project, because typically the way it works is they do the entirety of the project, the contractor does, and then there's a notice of completion that occurs, and then we move in, so to speak. But I don't know, Vin, if you have any other color on that you want to share at the moment.
Yeah, I'm actually looking up at our CIP tracker with my team and my staff. We try to keep that updated on a monthly basis. So I would advise that for anyone interested, members of the public, just go to the city website and search CIP tracker, and I'll give you a list of all the latest updates from our projects. My understanding is this project is close to completion. As Sean mentioned, when we wrap up a project, oftentimes it may be substantially complete, but there's usually a list of what we call punch list items. They're minor little things, but if we don't hold the contractor accountable to get those things done, before we accept the improvements, and there are things that our public works crews will have to fix. So that's why, during project closeout, there's usually a little time associated with just wrapping up these little punch list items. I think for the most part, that project is fairly close to completion.
Okay, thank you. Could you do me a favor? And could you call Fran when we are moving those boxes to their permanent home so she can be there?
I will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Keep an eye out, Fran.
Yeah, keep an eye out, Fran. We'll call you. All right, anybody else on Zoom with public comment? Nope. Okay, all right, then we'll close public comment and we'll go to item 13, the consent agenda. We have 2 items on consent. Do the council have any questions that they want to ask? We're not going to pull anything, but if somebody has a question. Nope, nobody in the audience. Okay, then I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Pearl,
Yes.
Councilmember Reedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Eklund,
Yes.
Mayor Andriata.
Yes. Okay, item 14, public hearings, we have none. Item 15, general business. 15A, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for services with Secure and Alert for the installation of cameras at several critical infrastructure locations throughout the city. Didn't we just do that? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Hi
Now,
again.
this is like camera deja vu,
Yeah, I
right?
know, right? Okay.
So this is a project, it's a capital project that was identified a few years ago after we did an AWIA audit, which is America Water Infrastructure Audit, and it's a risk and resiliency. And during that audit, back then when we did it in, I think, 2021, it was for water only. This year, we're redoing it because you do it every 5 years. It's also includes wastewater. And the findings that there were findings, a lot of them we've fixed, and it's a confidential audit because it has issues that, security issues that needed to be addressed and things like that. But some of this stuff was physical security. Physical security will include alarms on your tank lids, your barbed wire above your fence lines, things like that, so that people don't get into your critical infrastructure sites. We also, so what we decided to do for this capital project was add some other critical infrastructure, so wastewater, and the garbage bins fell into that because it is a huge cost for the city for illegal dumping. And then, so it's just more physical security. So is with line with the capital project. So this is to put the cameras at the water sites, 3 tank sites, and the booster pump station. And then also to do 2 of our major pump stations for wastewater, which have had vandalism several times, as well as the solid waste bins at Joyner Park and 12 Bridges Library. And when we did this, we did get the cameras for their new location. So it wouldn't be in their existing location. So it's timely that that project's almost done, and then we're bringing this together. You have any questions?
Yeah, okay, this is what we were talking about before, right, John, with the, okay, I'm tracking. Okay, questions from the council?
The funding from this is going to be coming from where?
So the water was already budgeted back when the project was created back in 22, 23. We just haven't had the resources to put this together. And then the other ones are coming from the wastewater capital fund and the solid waste capital fund.
Thank you.
Right, and you did say that there will be cameras at the 2 recycling places?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. I really like that because people just dump.
Mhm.
And then our staff has to come and clean it up. And if we can catch them doing it and then make them pay for it, then that might stop it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Chief can talk to this, but when they dump tires, it's really expensive, and like it puts them above this threshold of like an amount that makes it really bad. And without the video and stuff, they don't have a lot to go on.
All right, any questions or comments from the public? Yep, Darla, go ahead.
So it's true, a lot of people dump a lot of stuff at the recycling stuff. But my question is, by putting a camera and you seeing who did it, what is the police gonna do?
Pursue the crime that was committed, and if we can identify the individual, charge them with the crime.
And because I believe, I may be wrong, you can go steal something, and if it's under 1,000 or 500, they just kind of like,
Not in
so is this
Placer
person
County.
gonna be different?
Not in Placer County. That
No?
doesn't happen, not in Placer County.
Okay, because it seemed that if they were just gonna say, you're not gonna do that, there's no point in the camera. But if you're actually gonna do something about it, I can see putting the camera.
Well, and Prop 36 passed too, which eliminates that limit of stealing things too, but, yep. But your point is well taken, Darla. Yep.
And Mayor, the other critical component is that if we do know who did it, there's also a civil citation and penalty that accompanies it. So when we have to spend staff time and heightened dump fees because they are tires and other hazardous materials, they can be charged back to the
Yeah.
property owner.
Yeah, and if we start making people pay for the stuff that they dump, then that's harsh consequence and people will stop doing it. Yeah, it's a great deterrent. Very good. All right. Any other public comment and anybody on Zoom? Nope. Okay. All right, bring it back to the council. Questions?
What,
Yep.
the bid is sole source and I'm comfortable with the rationale, but I'm wondering if you could just take a minute to articulate it.
Sure. So I originally got these bids when we did the PD bid, and we had 3 different vendors bid on the project, and then used the per camera cost, which includes installation for the bid for these sites. So these estimates are about 2 years old, and they kept the same price for me finally coming to you, bringing it forward to move forward with. Then also, you know, that we've used this vendor, and they've been a great vendor. If we have an issue, they're here same day. So, you know, there is a benefit to having to know that you're going to be doing a project like this with a vendor that you can trust to get the job done the way you expect it to be done.
Thank you.
And I'm very comfortable with that. Yeah, so thanks for the question. Okay. All right, if there's no other questions or comments,
I'll move to adopt.
Second.
roll call, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Reedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearl?
Yes.
Councilmember Eklund?
Yes.
Mayor Andriata?
Yes. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it.
You.
Okay, item 15B. Adopt a resolution approving the establishment of an application integrator position within the Information Technology Department and the salary schedule for the newly established application integrator classification series. Sam.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for having me. As you said, this is a request to establish one application integrator full-time position within the Information Technology Department and to approve the proposed salary schedule for that new classification series. So currently, we rely upon costly external vendors and consultants to perform configuration work for applications and enterprise software. By establishing this position, this could reduce costs to perform that work in-house essentially. And specifically, we're looking at programs like Excella, which is used in the Community Development Department for planning purposes. It's an opportunity to integrate new modules into that system and kind of bring it to the current needs of that department. Additionally, it's going to be leveraged for the Tyler ERP software that we're migrating to over in finance, so for budgeting purposes as well. So again, we're looking to reduce costs through the consultant process by establishing this position to perform that work in-house. And that's all I have on that. Any questions on that?
Questions?
Sam, do you have an idea of the relative savings?
I do not. Jen, can you speak to that?
Let's see you. There we go. The consultant that we used for the last, since 2022, so 2022, 2024, 2022, 2023 to 24, because we're fiscal years, we spent approximately $120,000 with that consultant. Just for Acela.
Just for that seller?
Yeah, Tyler is a factor of many more than that. And what I just would add is, I think we've all kind of talked about this, it was just for the public. It used to be that most of the work that happened in a city was, you know, paper and pen and gun belt and, you know, shovel, and there still is a lot of that. But more and more, almost everything we do has some sort of software component to it. And Jen was explaining to me that most of the softwares that are available to us kind of come to us as here's the general framework and you make it yours. And it's that you make it yours part that's very complex. And while we have some really great consultants, what we found is that the amount of resources that we're spending trying to get them up to speed, we think we actually can get better value by jettisoning those and having just someone here doing that work on a consistent basis, because we'll always have new softwares and new systems that come and go over the years. So just my 2 cents.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. All right. If there's no other questions or comments. Oh, yeah, thank you. Public comment. Thank you, Sam. Public comment on this? Anybody on Zoom? Yeah, nobody ever cares about these positions, so I'm just kidding. All right, now I'll take a motion.
I'll move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Reedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Eklund?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearl?
Yes.
Mayor Andriata?
Yes, great. Thank you,
Thank
Sam.
you.
Appreciate it. All right, item 15C, looks like this is just information. 2025 Independence Day in Lincoln Potter's Fireworks Show. And it says Doug, but I don't see Doug. Is that going to be you? Okay.
I believe Doug had a birthday or an anniversary or
Oh,
something
well,
tonight,
that's more
so
important, yeah.
I will cover for him if you hang with me for one moment.
No worries.
I had my other report up and ready to go. So every year we bring an item like this to you that basically seeks approval for, technically our code says that the council has to approve all firework activity in town for really good reason, because while they're pretty cool sometimes, it can also be disruptive. And so sort of a process and there's a little danger to them, actually. So that's sort of a process that's intended to just continue to look at that every year. So real quickly, our annual fireworks show, as you all know, is the 4th of July. It's a longstanding tradition. The city council actually allocated some funds to the 4th of July Foundation to make sure that they had adequate funding, hopefully for the foreseeable future, to have that premier event happen here in Lincoln. In addition to that, for several years, the Potters have funded their own fireworks display at the conclusion of their Friday and Saturday home games throughout their season. Kind of a neat little area benefit if you live in the neighborhood, and provides a little extra for the public that's attending. So the requests are for the 4th of July Foundation and the Lincoln Potters, which will be fully funded by each applicant to have their fireworks show. There is one correction in this report that I caught before it went out, but I chose to keep it because I wanted to just discuss this. When I first started here, the 4th of July Foundation was struggling to make ends meet with regard to all the costs of their project. And there was, I think it was the first year, there was a gap that exists. And the gap was, it's very, very expensive to bring porta potties to not only the parade area, but the park area. You have tens of thousands of people there. You have to have adequate bathrooms or people want to attend. So the city jumped in and funded that gap. And then we picked that up for a couple of years, actually, to help kind of provide some financial support to the event as they started to ramp up their fundraising. I think that what you can take out of the recommendation is our $5,000 commitment to the 4th of July Foundation, because $100,000 has gone to the Lincoln Community Foundation to hold for excess things that they haven't fundraised up to. So they're going to have the ability, and we discussed this, I believe, I'm pretty sure at council when that happened, that funding was intended to fill gaps. So if a gap exists, whether it be this or traffic control or whatever, that's the appropriate clearinghouse for the time being for them to go get their funding. And Lincoln Community Foundation is well aware of that and will not reasonably withhold any kind of assistance they need. So what I would say though is that if they come back to me and say, hey, we had a really rough year, we're going to have to draw down more than we thought this year, we can collaborate and work out some other arrangement on bathroom rentals, but I don't think it's necessary for council to approve that as part of this action.
Yeah, well, the $100,000 is supposed to be like an endowment, right? So hopefully it earns some interest, that's what they use. But we gave them some wiggle room that in the event they needed a little bit more time, but hopefully they're not having to take big chunks of that every year, that it stays there for that purpose.
And it is, I just talked with LCF the other day, it is already earning decent return. There are, not tens of thousands of dollars, but they've made a couple $1,000s already. So
good.
Over the years, it should grow.
Very good.
Especially if they can have a couple of years where they don't draw any down, that would be the best.
That would be the hope, right? Yeah. I know they're already working hard on fundraising. So tomorrow night is bingo. Yes, I'm going to be there. I'm sure my losing streak will stay intact, but that's okay. All right. Any questions from the council? Okay, any public comments? Mr. Chapman?
Byron Chapman, 12 Bridges area. Madam Mayor, council members and city staff and those looking at home, those of us who are still here. Technology seems to be moving faster and faster every time I turn around. I'm fairly certain that somebody in the committee may have already investigated this scenario. The big deal nowadays is using drones. And for a couple of reasons, just the safety factor alone. just being a fire hazard all by itself. Hoping that somebody's looked into that. If they haven't, maybe they should. I have no idea as to what the cost would be, but I do know going online, there were several sections in there where people are jumping on this. I didn't look at the prices or anything like that, but I just got to thinking, I realized that a lot of people like to hear the boom and all that goes off. Okay, so you shoot 2 of those off and the rest of it's drones, whatever it might be. But my point is that we need to change with the times, and safety nowadays, middle of summer, what we've gone through, what we can avoid, is just a thought. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chapman. Yeah, drone shows are really cool. It's my understanding that they are very, very, very expensive. So I don't know if it cost-wise, but I mean, your point is well taken on the other side of it.
Just because I'm curious, I'll go check that out.
Yeah.
But I can tell you one interesting little tidbit is that for the longest time, the rule of thumb is almost every town has a fireworks show. The rule of thumb for a really long time was that it's $1,000 a minute.
Yeah.
So a 20-minute show is $20,000. I think now it's more like $1,500-ish a minute. So it's still a lot of money even for a fireworks show. So it would be sort of interesting because I think he's right. At some point, the price will probably equalize enough. And you're right, they're awesome.
Well, I mean, and at some point, it might not even hurt to try it 1 year and see what people think, right? Yeah. Because they do some pretty cool things with the drones. Yeah, yeah. It's good point, Ms. Chapman.
Fire hazard.
Yeah. All right, anybody on Zoom? Nope, okay. All right, so we are voting on this, right? I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to the new format of our agenda. So we'll take a motion to approve item 15C.
Move we adopt item 15C, Independence Day and Lincoln Potter's fireworks show.
Second.
Oh,
Do we have to have as amended? Is that
The
Yeah,
resolution
that'd be
doesn't
great.
have money in it.
as amended?
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pearl.
Yes.
Councilmember Reedy.
Yes.
Councilmember Eklund.
Yes.
Mayor Andriata.
Yes, thank you for that. All right, item 15D, Airport Major Initiatives Update.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just be totally transparent here. Sometimes we have, as the mayor can certainly attest, we'll have meetings that have 800 pages of things to read and digest, and then some meetings, just because of how workflow happens and projects, it's lighter. And so as we looked at this agenda, it was very light. And to the extent that everybody's going to come down and try to make sure that there's some content on here that's useful. And it got to thinking that one of the things that maybe as an organization we haven't done a really great job of is we have 2 members of the council that sit on, I think, each of the committees that we have, except FIOC. And those members are super involved in all the work that's occurring at those committees. And then when we come back, there is usually a report that a council member will give real quickly at the end of a meeting about like, hey, here's what's going on. I started thinking about the airport because there's been a lot of really just kind of post New Year has been a big push on some major initiatives. And I thought that periodically on each of our committees, we'll try to return back and just outside of normal updates, give a quick overview for the council about the really important things that are occurring right now. It's just so that you're aware, because many of these will reach your desk, in the next couple months. And some of them, as you'll hear in a moment, are big time shifts in philosophy at the airport. So I'm just going to run through a few of you, for you. And I'm sure that Councilmembers Pearl and Eklund will jump in because they're your representing members on that board and have been the driving force in most of these. Okay, so one of the things that kicked off this year in earnest is for many, almost a couple of years, well, I think Richard would probably say for many years, professional management of the airport has been a discussion. So the way the airport is run today is our public works director has one full-time staff person that is located on site that does almost all of the administration and then legwork and physical work out there. He is supervised by our facilities manager and has a little bit of part-time help, I think, sometimes. But that's how skinny it is. And this is a fully functioning airport with all of the same bells and whistles, minus a tower that any other airport is. And so you can imagine that the resources are very limited. So one of the ideas is that many airports nationwide have moved away from a public agency staffing model and have sort of outsourced the management of an airport to a private entity. And there's a business arrangement that typically takes place where there's revenue sharing. There's many different models, but essentially the concept is that you hire a professional aviation management company that knows the market, they know the latest and greatest trends in aviation and airport management, and they come in and bring you that expertise. Sometimes they'll handle leasing, sometimes they'll handle fuel pricing, sometimes they'll handle literal, physical labor when you're taking care of your customers out there at the airport. It all depends. So for a really long time, the unknown assumption had been, well, it's probably not worth it because the airport fund isn't in really great financial shape, which is true. But as Councilmember Pearl and I have discussed for quite some time, it's really not giving the market the opportunity to evaluate whether or not there's opportunity here at the airport. And so the committee decided that they're going to test the waters a little bit. So we have draft RFPs that are going to go hit the street here shortly, and we're going to see what the market and there's not a ton of these aviation companies that do this kind of work. So we're going to get probably the majority of the ones that would be interested, and we'll learn a lot. It may be that they come back with an amazing proposal that absolutely makes sense for us. It may be that they don't. It may be that we have to negotiate something. But we just can't know that without trying. I think that's the concept. And we actually think that there's a lot of opportunity at the airport, which I'll get to here in a minute, which would make it attractive for one of those businesses. So the idea is, in a perfect world, we save staff time and money. This company helps capitalize on the asset that is the airport. The city receives due compensation for that, and we provide better service to our customers out there. That's the perfect scenario. Now, whether or not we can execute that, we'll see. But the assuming model hasn't really worked for us, so we're going to actually test it. So that's one. The second is an idea that's been discussed for about a year now, and we're now ready to roll it out. So one of the problems with the airport is that it's very, very difficult to lease out city-owned hangars or dirt at a level that would be significant enough to fund all of the things the airport needs. And there's a variety of reasons for that. One is that for general aviation folks that fly as a hobby or a passion, you don't want to price them out of being able to participate in that. I think of the airport as sort of like a pseudo park in a way, where you want the opportunity for your community to be able to participate in aviation as a passion. Second reason is that if you think about, we'll talk about it in a minute, but you think about what it costs for someone to build a hangar on an airport with all the federal regulations and state regulations, you can't charge so much in a ground lease when they're going to be going and investing millions of dollars in a building under which they don't own the land and will never own the land. So it's like if you rented a parcel and wanted to build a home, you wouldn't want to pay a whole lot for the parcel on a rent basis because you're going to be taking a whole home line of equity out on a mortgage, right? So the question is, what do we do? We can make, and we are making incremental increases and changes to lease rates. We're updating leases. We've done a bunch. There are a bunch more coming. So that helps. But we got to thinking, what can we do to actually improve the experience and the maintenance at the airport outside of that? Because, if you look at the lease list that we have, and we have, hundreds of them, everybody's coming up for expiration at various times. So it's sort of impossible to do that in a short period. So the airport committee some time ago thought up this idea of a common area maintenance fee. So it's a CAM charge, similar to like an HOA. And what we did was we had a little discussion a couple discussions at airport committee about it, and then they assigned a subcommittee of a couple of our members, Byron Maynard and Lisa McCardle, who were fabulous contributors. And we came up with essentially a list of things that if we could get the pilots and tenants out there in large to agree to pay into, we could provide much better service to them. Anecdotally, what we've heard from most out there is they would love to participate in a low-cost program like this if it meant better services at the airport. And they get that there's a financial constraint. So I'm going to run through a few of the ones that we've talked through, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I think the fee will probably end up at. But stay tuned at the committee level because they'll be seeing the real data. Landscape, increased and improved landscaping, janitorial for expanded facilities, airfield lighting upgrades, security gate upgrades and maintenance. The gate, you can imagine, opens and shuts a bazillion times a day, so it breaks all the time. Refueling equipment and vehicles that provide better, faster service to our customers flying in that need assistance. One thing we've heard is, since tonight seems to be the security camera night, is I've heard from lots of airport users that they would really like to see more security upgrades. We've had a couple of break-ins at the airport. And although we do have a license plate reader on the couple, I think at least one on the exit, these are very expensive aircraft in many cases, and so they would really like a little bit more monitoring if possible. Large-scale weed abatement, that's a huge swath of land out there, so it's very expensive for us to kind of stay on top of the growth. The big one that Matt and I have been talking about is we could commit to very regular sweeping of the entire airport. If you ever go out to the runway, Councilmember Pearl and I were there just a week ago. If you see a car drive down there, the runway, or a plane, you see a poof of dust one way or the other. And that's just the nature of aviation. It kicks up a lot of dust. And so, and gravel and other things. And so we could commit to a very regular sweeping schedule, which would minimize some of the impact of the little rocks getting kicked up and dinging airplanes and, I don't know, maybe even people. Above ground storage tank maintenance. So a lot of these above ground storage tanks for fuel are very expensive for us to continue to maintain. And so this makes sure we don't have any interruption in fuel. And the most important one, so that's all the little stuff right there. The most important one is pavement maintenance. We have no dedicated funding source, and there's not going to be, at least in the short term, enough revenue in that fund to put a significant amount of money every year into trying to do some limited crack sealing. We don't, as a general tenant, use our city street dollars, which we don't have enough of as it is, to fund airport maintenance. So the idea would be that you set a dollar figure. Maybe it's $50,000 a year, maybe it's 100. But that money that they pay into in that CAM fee is dedicated only to pavement maintenance at the airport. So every year, think of it like Tetris. You pick an area, and Matt can calculate generally how many square feet, depending on the pavement treatment you're going to do, you can get. So you hit that area year one, you move to the next area year two, and so on and so on and so on. And it continues in perpetuity. So the pavement extends its natural life for a really long time. And that's the number one thing we hear from pilots is please, please, please do some pavement maintenance out here. All that said, I did some back of the napkin math, and based on the number of tenants we currently have and what we expect with hangar expansion projects, we think we can actually get the number down to a relatively nominal monthly fee. So I don't want to say exactly what it is because I'm still working on the generalities of it, but the idea that the subcommittee thought would be good is you take each type of airplane that's being stored there, and depending on what it is, you charge them a proportionate amount. So for example, a tie down, which is the lowest cost, maybe they only pay $30 a month. You go to a T hangar, which is probably the next lowest cost, maybe they pay $50 a month. You go up to a small box hangar, 80, and so on and so on and so on. And then you get up to the largest hangars where, you know, they're very expensive aircraft, maybe they're, or businesses, for example, that have a lot of traffic in and out. Maybe they pay the $120 a month. The idea, though, is to try to keep the number as low as possible so that the value to those that are in the airport is, it's a no-brainer. Oh, we get all of this just for that? Because you got to imagine it's very expensive to own an airplane. It's very expensive to rent a hangar. And so it's not that the resources don't exist, we just don't want to make it cost prohibitive for anyone. So that's sort of the needle we're trying to thread at the moment. And if we can pull it off, I think that it provides a reasonable, and sorry, one last thing. We've also discussed that if this is established, we set up a little committee of a couple of pilots or tenants out there, and maybe Matt or somebody from Public Works, where maybe twice yearly they meet and they go through what's been received from the CAM charge and they go through the projects. Okay, this year we're going to do security cameras. Next year we're going to do gate. We're going to pave this section. So they feel like they have some say in how it all gets spent. Not for use, not for salary use, not for paying off debt, just value add. And then finally, well, two more quick things. We've talked about the project from Executive Hangars of Lincoln, which will increase our hangar capacity by 33 to 40%. That project is now really close to being given a all systems go, and you will see construction in the late spring, early summer, probably all the way through the end of the year. Very exciting. We're actually going to be discussing it a little bit tomorrow at Economic Development, because it's really an economic development project more than as much as it is an airport project. Two more quick things. Hangar reversion. So almost all of the ground leases that the city has have a clause in them, which I think almost all airports do, where you get, let's say you build a hangar, 30 to 40, in some cases longer, years later, that lease expires. There is a drop dead date typically. What happens is that building and essentially reverts back to city ownership unless you otherwise negotiate something else. We have a very large swath of hangars to the south that's coming up for reversion this December. And so the city has some important business decisions to make about whether or not we take that asset, or whether or not we sell it, or whether or not we renew a lease under some other kinds of terms that are more beneficial to the city. There's a bunch of different ways to go about it. Matt and his team have also performed essentially a maintenance audit of every city-owned hangar, because we also own a lot of hangars out there, to determine which ones we want to hang on to, and then which ones would make more sense for us to sell, and then have a ground lease instead. All of these things are kind of designed to meet two objectives. The first, generate revenue for capital projects like the runway rebuild, which is super expensive. And two, not try to, my perspective at least, is to minimize any kind of asset that we can't afford to maintain anyway. So this idea of reversion sounds cool. And Matt and I have been discussing that there's a change in the airport culture about FAAs actually recommending sometimes that you do take reversions. But we need to make those decisions based on whether or not we can actually maintain them moving forward. Because the reality is if we can't afford to maintain the pavement and the lights and the runway, it's going to be awful hard to maintain doors and ceiling and roofs, right? So that is coming to a head. I would say we're probably going to get deep into that like mid to later part of this year. And then finally, we've talked about a lot here, but just the special events, Wings to Wheels is rolling, and we're making a lot of progress on Lincoln Speed Fest. Name may change slightly. Learned a lot just in the last month, and we probably will be back with a more robust report on that. We're just waiting on a couple little details like insurance and some FAA approvals, but nothing so far has flagged for us that this is infeasible. And in fact, we tested it about a week ago to get an idea about how would you create a fun environment for families to come out and actually see the cars. And so I'm really glad we did that, because it turns out that the area we had originally thought we were going to seat people is really far away. And so we have some opportunities to bring people a little bit closer while maintaining safety. So those are the big things going on at the airport. All of them are sort of designed to generate revenue at the airport, thereby hopefully getting us to a position where we're at least in somewhat of a surplus would be super great. But we've got quite a hole to work on at the moment. So I'd be happy to answer any questions and address any comments.
What you put together here, Sean, is more than I've seen in 15 years that I've been in the city. And I just know there's more than probably that's happened out there in 30 years. So it's really exciting to move all this stuff forward. We want to have a vibrant operation out there because the airport is really a gem for the entire region, not just Lincoln. I mean, it really is a force multiplier, for business that we can leverage. And so, yeah, all these things are good. We're not remaking the wheel over here by any stretch. We're using what's going on in other airports. We're learning from them. And I think, but this is just fabulous what we have going forward. The committee is really good. They really picked it up and putting a lot of really good information in front of us and working with us. So everything's going along very well.
Yeah, no, good summary. And I agree. I can't even count how many times I've been told this is amazing how much progress you guys are making. And it's so great to see all the focus that's finally able to go towards the airport, because other things have understandably taken priority. So it's exciting that everything sort of seems like it's all coming together right now for the airport.
Wow. Yes, and that's really exciting. This is something that we've been working on for a long time, pushing the boulder up the hill, right? And to your point, we finally get to a place where like, okay, the pieces are all falling together.
Mayor,
Yeah.
just before we move on, Chief Alves pinged me because one of the most important perhaps things, the John Sachs Memorial is rolling. Maybe you give a quick update.
Yeah, so the concrete was poured this week. Went out there and took a look at it yesterday. So concrete's down and the monument and the plaques are in production. Some of the equipment is still on cargo ships and they're on their way over. So we're looking good to have installation barring any issues by the end of May. The date of the unveiling that we're hoping for is going to be June 8th. So just do a save the date. That could move depending on if there's any issues with production. And also I'm reaching out to his widow just to coordinate plans because I strongly feel that it's going to be 100% driven by her how we're going to do the unveiling. So whether she wants something private on the 8th and we do something a little bit later, but if you just want to pencil that date in, we'll get a little bit more direction on her. But everything's going well on that and making some progress out there. So happy to see it.
Great, thank you. That is a Sunday, right? Okay, just making sure. Awesome, very good. Thank you, Chief. Don, did you have any questions? Okay, or any public comment on the update? Anybody on Zoom? Okay. So are you looking for direction on the management or just giving us an update what you're looking at? Okay.
Nope, just all things lead back to this room. So you will see them
Okay, perfect.
shortly.
Great, thanks. Awesome, thank you for that. That's very exciting. Yay. Okay, back to you, city manager reports, or is that it?
Yeah, I honestly, I just rambled for like 20 minutes. So I think unless you would like me to give a specific update, which I'm happy to do, I don't think I have anything to add tonight. Oh, I do. Yes, I do. Actually, taking that back, I'm going to ramble. PSA for everyone. We are in budget at the moment. We are deep into it. And as you and I were talking about, it's really great to have a 2-year budget. It's awesome. We love it. But it sucks
All work.
right now because it's like if you clean your house once every 2 weeks, it's a lot more work, right? Instead of just doing it once a week. But it does provide us a better end product. So we are still trying to be as responsive as possible. If you're contacting me and I'm a little late getting back to you, that is why. And I'm going to do my best to kind of catch up. But just want everybody to know we're going to go into budget hibernation for the next 45-ish days. And we'll see you when we come out for spring.
Well, I noticed that Nita is very quiet over there tonight, so she's probably exhausted. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Sean. Yeah. All right. Item 17, council initiated business. Anybody have any business? Committee reports. We have a committee report.
I've got one coming up. The Placer County Air Pollution Control Board is tomorrow. I'll be at that. And then also, just for information purposes, I'm also on Pioneer Community Energy, and I was elected to be vice chair of the Audit and Finance Committee.
Nice. Very good. I was
Is-
on that committee too, but I wasn't.
Yeah. Well, they're doing some great things. They're really going to be expanding their
lot.
resources. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a win.
Good. Awesome. Good job, Richard.
No, I have everything coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple things. I had a SACOG Policy and Innovation Subcommittee meeting on Monday. Some of this I think I've already mentioned, but they went over it again. We did get an advocacy report from the lobbyist in DC and, you know, talking about the new administration and the incoming tariffs and all that. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and I chuckle watching them all like scramble trying to figure out what, you know, what's going to happen. But one of the things that he did say was that as far as transportation dollars go, the money that comes in that's based on the formula that they have, you know, the things that are kind of set in stone, that funding is still there. The things that are competitive grants, those are the things that are in question. And also what we used to call like earmarks or whatever, those are gone. So what that, a real time example of that would be Loomis was supposed to get $1 million for their Horseshoe Bar Road exit fix. Rockland was supposed to get like 3 million, and they're not getting that. So that money is gone. And you know, we can look at it that one or two ways. Like that's a bummer for our communities, but it's also you know, trying to get the federal government under control. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But it doesn't look as dire for transportation as what people might have thought. The other thing is that SACOG has been providing staffing for CARTA, which is the new entity for the toll lanes that are coming in Sacramento area, because this is a new startup. And so SACOG has been giving staffing, and SACOG had been doing the funding as well. They lent CARTA 1.3 million. They're going to loan them another 1.3 million, but they've said, that's it. We're not going to loan you anymore. And they're going to start in the calendar year 2026. They will pull back their staffing. CARTA will begin the process of hiring their own staffing, and then the loans will be paid with interest, but they push those out repayment to 2030. So the money will come back to SACOG, but they're helping CARTA get started and on their way. And we'll see how that works with the toll lanes and stuff. You know, the other thing that they talked about was all of the things that the state is working on to combat the reduction of the gas tax revenue. It's like, well, if you make everybody go to electric cars, that's what's going to happen. And so they're still talking about passing a fee for miles traveled for everybody. But the problem with that is that that is so labor intensive to try to monitor everybody's miles and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure if that's very viable. So then, you know, other suggestions were, you know, tacking on more fees for at the DMV for your car registration. All of it is just a lot of, you know, a lot more money for people to pay. So we're watching that and see what they're going to do. I think that was all the main things that I had for that. So, and I think that's the only meeting I had. I have the regular SACOG coming up later, and that was it for committees. All right, and then for information, I did tell one of the pastors at Grace Life who he runs the East Avenue Cafe that they started, the new coffee shop. Really nice guy, and he's gonna be joining us here in the next few months for invocation. But he wanted to make sure that everybody knew, in case you didn't get the email, that they're doing a ribbon cutting on May 24th at 9 a.m. They're doing a car show and a ribbon cutting for the cafe. They want everybody to come. So I said I would pass that along. And Richard can tell us, because he was there the women's masquerade ball was a hit, right?
It was a hit. It was great. There was 190 people. It was at Sun
Wow.
City Orchard Creek Ballroom. About 190 people. A lot of the men were wearing tuxedos, women were wearing long gowns. A bunch of people were in mass. It was a great time. They raised a lot of money for their new proposed building. But the thing that I really want to pass along is that I wore a tuxedo and I wore a top hat. And Nita came up to me and she said, "I'll pay you if you wear your top hat
That's why you.
to
love it.
council meetings." So
And I kept having to raise the price,
Yes.
how much I would pay him.
So Nita, you can write a check
Right.
to the Women's Club for the building fund.
Didn't we settle on $10 a meeting?
That's awesome.
I love that hat. You're like Mr. Monopoly.
Yes. Yeah, he does look like Mr.
Right?
Monopoly.
Yeah, good. And being a banker, all the things, it's like, nailed it.
All right, anything else? No? Okay, thank you, everybody. I want to also thank our treasurer for coming every meeting and hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Thank you, staff. We are adjourned.
Thank you.